Please listen carefully.
Hello, universe. Welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Summers McKay.
And I'm Kristy Jansen, and we are part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to help us all get focused on what's going right in the world.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy, indexed on Google, and 500,000 people have read an article about vitamin D-worthy podcasts. Today is Monday, the 10th of January, 2022. Kristy, we broke 1 million.
I'm so excited, Summers. That's great. I guess vitamin D people really want to know about immunity and good vitamins.
And also winter. And, that birding article on Friday did really well, too. People want to know about birds and how to take care of their winter bird feeders. And yeah, we're having fun here at the Optimist Daily, sharing solutions one day at a time. And even though it's definitely a Monday, Kristy and I are both kind of brain fogged this morning. We're not operating on full cylinders. And in fact, we spent a quality amount of time in our morning check-in fooling around with different Skype together mode backgrounds. And Ariel has had her first official full week producing the Optimist Daily Update and probably now realizes just how crazy you and I might be in a good way. But what's going right for you in the world today?
Oh, man, you put me on the spot with that one. I was not actually expecting to have to answer it. Okay, what's going right? Well, I have a great house to hunker down in when it's foggy and overcast, and pretty much everybody that I know is quarantined from either actually having Omicron or
avoiding it.
My son, he's telling me that there's like at least a quarter of the student body is out with the virus or with exposure. I was supposed to have lunch with somebody on Friday who texted me, and this is the third time we've tried to reschedule, and she's like, so sorry to do this, but I'm actually recovering from Omicron. I keep testing positive, so we can't meet up again today. So I'm like, oh yeah, fine. I have a cold. I'm staying home also. I can't really see anybody. So yeah, let's just have a Zoom lunch.
I love it. Well, so that's what's going right, is you have a lovely place to hunker down in times of uncertainty.
And as much as I hate Zoom, digital meetings, I also love them.
Yeah. What's going right in my world is I had an amazing cup of tea, actually pot of tea this morning. I got up a little bit early. It was cozy and cold, and we had a great morning at our house. And last week I had an amazing meeting with somebody who's going to help me design the birds, bees, and bugs paradise that is our home here in Austin. And we had a really fascinating conversation about plants and what is native versus what is basically climate appropriate. And I am not a diehard nativist when it comes to plants, because I think that what is perhaps native 50 years ago is not necessarily what's going to do really well now.
It totally is true. I mean, we were talking about the parrots in the Netherlands and in Pasadena.
Not native,
but thriving, just taking over.
Well, and there's invasive species, but then there's also sort of the evolution of what is a relevant species, plant, birds, bees, or bugs, or whatever. And I am so fortunate that in our oak trees in the back, we just had 2 manifestations of monarch butterflies roosting. And I want to make sure that we continue to be a place that they can roost while migrating. So like you, I am incredibly grateful for my home and hunkering down, and I don't really see people anyway because I don't go out or have lunch with friends, but I do spend a lot of time with my birds and bees and bugs. So good. We have things going right in the world.
Summers, I was taken aback by that question, but once we started thinking about it, all these different things or moments or opportunities popped into my mind. That's exactly the point, is to just think about what's going good. And then you start noticing all those things. Whereas on the other hand, if you don't think about that, then you just kind of notice all the pain in the patooties.
I would challenge everybody who's listening right now, just take a moment. Yes, we are going to get to the news. Yes, we are going to share some solutions journalism, but take a moment to ask a friend or a colleague or somebody on Zoom or somebody you see in the line today at wherever you are. Just say, what's going right in your world? try to, as we focus on our mission, which is to change the mindset, to change the future, to change the world for good, start by asking the question, what is good in the world today? What is good in your world today? You're right, Kristy. At first, I took you aback. And then you realize that every single day on the Optimist Daily, you talk about in your opening line, getting people focused on what's
right.
good.
Follow my own prescription.
Exactly.
Make my own medicine.
Yes.
Let's talk about our stories for today.
I think on a Monday, yours is appropriate to go first.
My headline reads, Bolt is the latest tech company to implement a 4-day work week. And this is a concept that we've written about quite a bit on the Optimist Daily, and it's starting to really take off. Not just in tech companies, but in different iterations around the world and around the country. In 2021, we saw a growing interest in the idea of 4-day work weeks. Governments of Spain, New Zealand, and Singapore are all openly considering adopting that idea and moving away from that traditional definition of the 40-hour working week, which, by the way, is a modern iteration of what is considered a good work week. That came out of the labor movements in the 30s. Before that, there was no limit to what a regular work week was considered. Some countries, I think Spain, has a lower number of hours, which is considered full-time and regular. So this is an interesting idea, and partly to address worker burnout, but also it turns out that productivity does not decline when you give people an extra day to do other things. And what they do with those days is often take care of practical issues, go to doctors, tinker with their homes, and then they have their weekends to travel or enjoy things or spend time with their families, get into nature. And you come back to work refreshed and ready to roll in a positive way. So Bolt is the company that this particular article is focused on. It's a tech startup, actually considered one of those unicorns. It's a big company, a big deal. I don't actually know what they do. I haven't looked at what they do, but it's a fintech startup. But they are realizing that this is actually an effective policy. They're moving this way permanently. Before they made this shift, they did a 3-month trial in which their employees had Fridays off. And the results of that trial were overwhelmingly positive, where 94% of participating employees said that they really wanted the program to continue. 86% claimed they were more efficient with their time. And since this is a fintech startup, they probably were watching what was happening and saw that, in fact, they were more productive.
I just looked it up to confirm. Bolt is a checkout process. It is a one-click checkout process. So similar to PayPal or Amazon Pay or Stripe or some of the independently developed ones by banks that we continue to fight with. It's an online checkout process. We talked a little bit about, as the Optimist Daily is growing at rapid paces, and we're delighted, how do we continue to grow in a good way? And our impact investor reminded us to stay focused to our mission and make sure that our business, our work, our decisions all aligned with our mission. And if you look at Bolt's mission, it's all about efficiency and giving people time back. So their actual product matches with their leadership decisions.
Right. The whole issue of work-life balance is one that has become an obsession for so many people, and certainly for us, trying to figure out how to juggle responsibilities of parenting and being good partners in our families, and then also just ourselves. How do we mind the inner shop as well as the outer shop? So I think this is just an interesting article talking about the solution of the 4-day work week.
On the best of the year business, Amelia actually talked about 4-day work weeks and flexible work schedules. And at the Optimist Daily, what we've deployed with our team is highly flexible work schedules. So it's about getting your work done. And so if there's a day where you can't work, but you still have to get your job done at another time. So 4-day work week is really an example of flexible work. It'll be interesting to see if you did some comparison between productivity on flexible work schedules or rigid 4-day work week. I'd be interested to see a comparison between those two.
Yeah. Another thing that this is sort of signifying is that the way that our work has been constructed is really a product of a prior century.
Yes.
And of different types of jobs. So the knowledge worker, which is what we are, most office type work is, using like a factory model of work is really not applicable. So that's part of what is the revolution in work-life balance and in work culture. We're still trying to figure it out. And this is an example of a new potential solution to
Right.
acknowledge that we are human beings and we can't just sit at our computers all day long and not lose our minds, which is what we talked about in the weekend view from Sunday.
Exactly.
And the whole idea of languishing and ennui that comes from having a negative balance between what's going on in the outer world and what's going on in the inner world.
Well, I am going to jump to the next news story straight to the outer world.
Yes, I like it.
To space and apocalyptic asteroids. So I love apocalypse movies. It's kind of my favorite movie type.
I'm surprised you haven't yet seen Don't Look Up.
I know.
We'll talk about after we talk about
Don't Look Up. Right. Okay. So my headline reads, AI simulation can model potential asteroid collisions. Asteroids have hit the Earth before, and it's highly possible they could hit again. And preparation and small interventions could make a difference for humans to avoid total annihilation. A research team at the National Institute of Natural Hazards in China has recently constructed a computer model that may just help us steer clear of this catastrophe, allowing Hollywood to continue to make disaster shows. The simulation started as a way to replicate what had previously happened when asteroids hit the Earth, right? The simulations were looking backwards and the types of asteroids that hit in the past. From these models, we learn generally about a destructive impact process, crater formation, and crater morphology. We learn the impacted environment, temperatures, and velocity. So we look back in history, what happened in the past. These new models are exploring other types of asteroids. The AI program published in AIP Advances was built using NASA's space-time conservation element and solution element method, which I'm not going to fully explain, but it is used by many organizations and universities. The difference between this particular simulation and previous models is its ability to compare both rocky and metal asteroids. Traditionally, we're looking forensically at the rocky asteroids that have largely hit the Earth. NASA is currently preparing for their Psyche mission, aimed at exploring an asteroid entirely made of metal. Little is known about these denser formations compared to the rock ones. The metal asteroids may in fact be made of the same material as Earth's inner core, which we don't have a lot of information about. The NASA mission may help us uncover the secrets to the deepest inner workings of our planet. So going to space and diving to the core of our world. Yang believes developing these simulations can give answers to many unknown questions about asteroid impacts and also perhaps help us change trajectory of asteroids. You know, looking at things like geochemistry components that are generated, what are the impacts that result in either good or bad consequences to local climates, and ultimately, as Hollywood insists, going and landing on it and redirecting ourselves and saying farewell to Bruce Willis as he saves us all.
The thing that I find entertaining about this story, or just thinking about asteroids, is first of all that it is a news story. And if you think about it, an asteroid collision is one of those extinction level events that is really terrifying, which is why they're perfect fodder for Hollywood apocalypse movies, right? But there's also something that we don't tend to put any energy towards. It's too overwhelming to think about. And yeah. So I know you haven't seen Don't Look Up, but that is a film which I found really very dark and entertaining both at the same time. And it's been read as an analogy towards how the world has treated the climate collapse.
Right.
And laissez-faire kind of attitude that many politicians and our general public has given towards the changing climate, the carbon emissions that are really warming up everything, and this slow-moving train, which is potentially going to affect everybody on Earth in a very, very negative way.
I think that's part of why I haven't seen it, is because I like disaster movies like The Day After Tomorrow, where somehow the front door of the New York Public Library can keep out the cold.
So this one it's hilarious, but it's very dark humor.
I'll give it a try. If I find it too dark, I am going back to watching, Jake Gyllenhaal outrun the wolves to stay warm.
The idea that potential asteroids, it can happen, but the real things that are happening are probably even more likely to happen. And we have to put those kinds of attention to solving and changing our patterns there. So,
well, exactly. Advancements in AI, and this story is not just about asteroids, but it is about advancements in AI and modeling and potential impact and effect that we can derive learnings from this model as well.
One of the things about modeling is it helps you see what could happen if you go down this path or that path. And that could give us the sort of embodied knowledge that we need to take action.
Exactly.
To avoid the worst outcomes. I like that part of this story too.
All right. What else do we have on today's Monday Optimist Daily?
How to be a positive force in the negative workspace. Maybe not talking about asteroids is one of those ways. For Greenlanders, eating sugar is significantly healthier. I'm going to look at that story because I don't understand why. A new part of the body is discovered. Ooh, check that out. The perfect stretch to relieve lower back pain, according to a specialist. What else, Summers?
Well, we have a story that we are very honored is finally happening. Canada pledges to compensate First Nations children billions of dollars. We didn't dive into this story today, but it is an important read. It is a first step in a solution in acknowledging extreme violence and transgressions against First Nations children in Canada. A neuroscientist's 4 favorite ways to decompress. Same-sex couples in Israel can now become parents through surrogacy. And modular facade can be installed onto old buildings to cut their emissions. That and much, much more, as always, is available on theoptimistdaily.com. Thank you for listening to the Optimist Daily Update. We promise to continue to share positive, solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in this changing world and ensure it is changed for the good. We promise to cover current events with accuracy, legitimate sources, and offer you the information needed most to chart new paths for all of us.
And to remind everybody, we are reader-supported, independent journalistic outfit here. So we depend on people signing up to support us. So if you have the means, please consider becoming an emissary on theoptimistdaily.com. And for starting at just $5 a month, you can help support our mission and be part of the solution-changing consciousness that addresses our world's biggest challenges with that problem-solving mindset. Please help us keep the Optimist Daily free for all who need it, supported by those of us who can. That's it for today, Summers, and I guess we'll be back tomorrow with more solutions.
We will indeed. Have a great rest of your Monday.